then you can buy something right there. Yeah, so that would be something, and then like the outdoor facilities. All right, well, it is 12 o'clock, so we will go ahead and get started. If anyone joins here, as we get started, we'll go ahead and let them in. But hello, everyone. I'm JC. I'm the Peak Program Coordinator. We also have Madison here with us, and today we have Krystal Nelson, who is our guest speaker. She will be talking a little bit about life enrichment and just having best practices for residents to have a meaningful life. So, Krystal, go ahead.
Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Krystal. A little bit about me. First of all, I started in long-term care when I was 16 years old. Um, my parents at the time made me become a CNA. I was very angry at them for it. But it turned out to be the best job I've ever had because it led into what I did later on in life. So, um, when I was 16, I became a CNA. I originally worked at the hospital in a small Western Kansas town, but my clinicals were in the nursing home there. So that was my first real experience in a nursing home. And I can tell you, I left and went home and told my parents I would never work in a nursing home or in long-term care again. Um, Joke is on me because that is what I've done my whole entire life in some sort of fashion. And that's even where I met my husband, was working in long-term care. So, um, the reason though why I left that day, I said I would never work in long-term care, was honestly the bathing experience and just the life that I saw residents had. Um, I remember lining people up. I mean, a lot of us probably do. The system is weird. None of us are bad people working in long-term care, but the system has been broke for a long time. The PEAK program is working on fixing that, so that's great. But so I remember people lined up in the hallway, just one after another, and they literally were just bringing them into a shower, basically hosing them off really quickly. It was cold. Residents hated it. Um, Nobody really talked to them. They got dressed. It kind of just felt like an assembly line. So I told my parents I would never work in long-term care. Um, then fast forward to college, and I got an undergraduate degree in kinesiology and gerontology, and took a gerontology class that actually paired us with mentors at a local long-term care facility, and then took my first job at that same long-term care facility and got to work with actually the resident that was my mentor in that program. So I've done a little bit of everything in long-term care. I have done administrative work. I have a master's in healthcare administration. I have done activity director. I have done social services. I've been a CNA. I have most recently worked as with the therapy world. So doing occupational therapy in the long-term care and in the school system. So that's a little bit about me. Um, Typically when I do these talks or these presentations, I like them to be very interactive. So don't hesitate to ask questions. Don't hesitate to let us know kind of your thoughts or things that you have done that have worked for you where you're working at, because we all learn from each other. So do not hesitate to speak up. What I want to do, though, to begin is I want to start with a little activity. Um, Before we get to that, there's my husband. My husband and I, like I said, met in long-term care. There's my two daughters. I have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old, almost 9-year-old, that keep us very busy. Okay, what can you expect? Hopefully you can learn what means to have a meaningful life. How do we create a meaningful life for ourselves and for others? The importance of individualized daily routines. Exactly what we mean when we say spirituality. The importance of community connections and practices. So to begin, if you all could take out a piece of paper, and it can just be a scrap piece of paper, we're going to do a little activity. I'll give you guys a minute to. So for this activity, I want you to number your paper from 1 to 6. And for number 1, what I would like you to do is name one thing you do to start or end your day, as well as what time you go to bed and what time you get up in the morning. Number 2, briefly describe what you do for a living and why you chose this career path. Number 3, how do you currently meet your spirituality needs? Number 4, name 2 leisure activities you enjoy doing. Number 5, name a club or organization you are involved in or volunteer for. And number 6, write down 3 things you do to contribute to your family home. And let us know if you need need me to repeat any of that. I'll give you another minute or so. Okay. Now I want you to look at your piece of paper and look at number 1. You should have written one thing you do to start or end your day, as well as what time you go to bed and get up. I want you to look at those things and think about them for a minute. Now I want you to cross that off your list because you can no longer do those things because it does not fit with your medication schedule. So you can no longer go to bed or get up when you want, and you can't do the one thing you want to do to start or end your day. Now look at number 2, what you chose to do for a living and why you chose this career path. Cross that out because now not only has your home changed and you live in a long-term care home, but you're also retired. And nobody wants your input on that job or your advice. Number 3, how do you currently meet your spirituality needs? Cross that one out. Because now that you live in long-term care, you no longer get to go to worship services, or every time you sit down to meditate, somebody barges into your room. Number 4, name 2 leisure activities you enjoy. Cross those off the list because they're not on the activity calendar. Number 5, a club organization you are involved in or volunteer for. Cross those off your list because you can no longer get to the meetings or the members of your group do not feel comfortable coming to your home. 6, write down 3 things you do to contribute to your family home. Cross those things off because you are no longer seen as helpful or people are scared to let you help, even though helping gives you purpose and it's nice to feel needed. After you cross those things off, how much was left that gives you meaning to life? This is what it oftentimes feels like for elders when they move into long-term care. Oftentimes, they are no longer in control, and we as staff tend to take control. So, we're going to look at today how we can create a meaningful life and help residents take control of what they do in their life. JC, remember when we talked about it when change slides?
Is it doing it?
Yep.
I
Yeah.
shouldn't have said anything. It wouldn't.
I know, you jinxed us.
Try unsharing your screen real quick and then doing a reshare.
Nope.
Okay, let me log in real quick. Are you able to just keep talking?
Yep, I can keep talking. Okay, so if we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you all are pretty familiar with it. I have it on my card here. I'll hold it. Well, my background's blurry. Hold on. Do I need to get out of share too? Probably, JC. Okay. But if we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we have at the bottom physiological, safety, love and belonging, esteem, and at the top, self-actualization. Typically, when residents move into long-term care, we do a great job of meeting their physiological needs: breathing, food, water, sleep, all of those things. And for the most part, safety, sometimes a little too well. But we don't do a good job of making sure they feel loved, they belong. We don't do a good job of helping to increase their self-esteem, their confidence or achievement, or respect of others or respect others. We also do not do a good job of visualization or the morality, creativity, spontaneity, problem solving, or acceptance of facts. We want to fix this though. So, what is a meaningful life? Need me to do anything, JC? Okay. According to Baumeister, a meaningful life is found through our sense of purpose, efficacy, value, and positive self-worth. So let's look at these words individually. Meaningful. Meaningful means that we've found something we found through significance, purpose, coherence, efficacy, value, and positive self-worth. Significance. That's the sense that our life is worth living and has inherent value, and your life matters. Purpose. Goals we have for our life and the belief that you're in this world to do something. Coherence. How we understand our life, how events in our life fit together. Efficacy. Living an effective life, it's the ability to produce the life you want. Value. One's judgment of what is important in life. And finally, positive self-worth. Believing in your capability to learn, achieve, and contribute to the world, worthy of love and belonging from others. Does anybody have any thoughts on any of that? Or how we do meeting those needs in long-term care? So in my experience, oftentimes when I go to a facility and I'm talking with others working in the facility, they'll say, but we have an activity calendar. So of course residents have a meaningful life. But do they? So I have my girls' activity calendar. I'm going to see if I can unblur my background for a minute. So here's my girls' activity calendar for the month of June. It has all the big activities on there. But is that all that makes up their life? No. For example, yesterday, my oldest asked if we could go out and eat and then go shopping. It wasn't on the calendar, but does that mean I told her we couldn't go? No, because spontaneity is just as important in doing the things that we want to do as the activity calendar. So let's talk about, gonna see if this works here. The activity calendar and creating a meaningful life. And do a little activity. Like I said, I normally do this in person, so we're gonna hope that it works. Okay, ignore my bedroom there. Didn't want my kids to come in and bother me. So in this jar, it's full of rocks. Is it full? It looks full, doesn't it? For the most part, we could say it's full. But is it? My husband's gonna kill me later. There's gonna be all these rocks. Floor. Is it full now? Some might say it's full. I don't know if you guys can see the sand falling down there and all the crevices. Pretty full. Can we get more in it? My husband's really gonna kill me, y'all. So if we look at this demonstration and we look at the big rocks, those demonstrate the activities on the calendar. But was our life completely full and meaningful with just the activities on the calendar? No. If we look at the pebbles or the small little bitty rocks, those represent the daily routines. So what time we get up, what time we go to bed, the things we like to do before we go to bed, the things we like to do as part of our morning routine. The sand represents spontaneity. So all those little things that you enjoy doing that fit throughout your day in the spare time. It might be that you decide you want to go to a movie that evening, or that you want to go out to dinner with your husband or a friend. And then the water represents all the little things that happen in between. So all those little things that you might be doing to help make sure your home runs and that it's a safe space and comfortable space. So what will happen? What do you guys think will happen if we take away the activity calendar? Any ideas? Go ahead and put it in the chat or speak up. You can unmute yourself and speak up if you want.
I think if we took away the activity calendar, for those who already feel like their life has no purpose, it can kind of send them into depression.
Okay. So if they already feel like they don't have a purpose, you feel like if we take away the activity calendar, there might be some depression. Okay. Isolate in their rooms, don't socialize as much with other residents, mood changes. Yep. Anything else?
I think if we took away the activity calendar, all of the family members of our elders would be calling, asking us if we're doing anything for our elders.
Okay. Anyone else? So here's my next question. Do you think that by having an activity calendar, we are creating life?
No.
No. Wouldn't have anything to look forward to. We are creating breaks in life. Anybody else? And I'm not saying take away the activity calendar. We are creating enrichment. Just wanting us to start looking at the activity calendar a little bit differently. What if you took away the activity director? What would happen then? Any thoughts?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
This is Amy. So I'm a little slow on learning tech. But my thought is if you take away the activity calendar, if you have a really good activity program, it shouldn't revolve around your activity calendar. We do so many spontaneous things. And our calendar always says subject to change. And so a lot of times, even though something's on the calendar, my residents are telling me, I don't want to do that. Let's do something else. And so we do something else. So I think it's important not to be so involved in the activity calendar. Yes, it's good to have one, but don't be so rigid about it. And as far as the activity director, I don't know. I guess we could find out here in a couple of weeks. Just kidding. Just kidding. I don't know. How do you unmute it?
Mute it back.
Mute it.
Anybody else have any ideas, thoughts on if we took away the activity calendar or the activity director? Let me ask you. Responsible for helping to create life in your homes.
Krystal, I think you cut out a little bit. We'll give her a second to get her internet going. while we wait for her to get going again, does anyone want to share any fun, exciting activities that they have planned for today or this week or this month that you guys want to brag about? The 4th of July is coming up. I'm sure you guys are going to have some fun celebrations.
Yeah. So we have our every Friday night in June, we do something big for the community. And this Friday night is our petting zoo where people from the community, people from 4-H, staff bring up their pets and animals. We'll have horseback rides. We just and it's a big thing that the community comes to, and the kids of the community all come to and ride the horses. We go swimming if it's not raining on Tuesdays and Thursday nights. If it's not too windy, we'll do a fire pit in the evening. Our 4th of July, we will do our get ready for our bake sale to raise money for the activities program for fireworks and other activities throughout the year. We'll be doing our big tie-dye t-shirt project, and we'll have our 4th of July party the 4th after supper.
Nice.
I'm back. I don't know. That was weird. It kicked me out. Sorry.
That's okay. While you were gone, we were talking about cool activities that everyone has planned today, this week, 4th of July,
Okay.
anything fun.
So when it kicked me out, I said that I hope that you all answered that everyone is responsible for creating life. When I worked as a CNA, or even in social services or administration or occupational therapy, I've done a lot of things, y'all, in long-term care. I could very easily do things that were within my certification or license. For example, if I am sitting in the hallway and I hear residents talk about how, man, they would love to put a puzzle together, do I need to go find the activity director to get the puzzle out? No. If I am ServSafe certified, which hopefully many of you are, and I hear a resident talking about how, man, they really, really loved their chocolate chip cookies that they used to make. It's not on the activity calendar. Does it need to be on the activity calendar to do it, or do I need to go find the activity director to do it? No. I, as an administrator, can do it. I, as an occupational therapist, can do it. I can do it as a CNA. What if somebody just wants to sit and talk during a mealtime? How many of you sit and just talk with the residents during mealtimes? Anyone?
Our staff eat with the elders.
Okay. How many of you don't have to say it or raise your hand, but how many of us have or known somebody that has gotten annoyed because we spent too much time with an elder? We've all done it or known somebody that has. Not
You're
because
working
we're
with
bad.
somebody who's very task driven. That can anger them.
Yes. And not because we're bad people, it's because the system is broke. Tasks can wait for the most part. People shouldn't have to wait. So for example, myself, I take a bath every night before I go to bed, and I read a book. My husband knows, my kids know that that is the thing I do every night before I go to bed. Most of my friends know, a lot of my coworkers know. If I moved into a long-term care home, what are the chances that I'll be able to take a bath and take my time and read a book every night? And that is one thing that gives me meaning to life. So as staff working in these environments, we have to figure out a way to do these things. And I know oftentimes I hear, well, it makes it harder. I don't have time. Well, if residents aren't all up at the same time, how am I going to make sure that everybody eats? If I'm not lining them all up for a shower, how am I going to make sure everybody gets a shower? If I'm not waking them up for medications, how do I make sure they're going to get their medications? On the other side, if I'm not allowing a resident to go to bed when they want to go to bed or to wake up when they want to wake up, who's controlling their life? Them or me? Is their life going to have meaning? No. Are we meeting those needs on Maslow's hierarchy of needs? No. I can tell you I've done it both ways. I've worked at places where we got everybody up at the same time. Everybody had a bath schedule. We ate around medications. Everything revolved around the schedule that was convenient for staff. I hated it. I was 16 when I became a CNA, and I recognized then that the system was broke. Nobody wants to live that way. However, when I moved to a facility that residents slept as late as they wanted to and went to bed when they wanted to, I never felt rushed. Because I could take the time with one resident in one room while she's getting up and she's doing her hair and her makeup. I could be making her bed. I could be tidying up her room. I could be taking out the trash, all while we're having a conversation, just like I would at my own home with my own kids. Because at our homes, we all pitch in and do what we need to do when it needs done. And that creates meaning in our life because we all need to feel useful in our homes. So while that resident is getting ready, I'm cleaning their room. Somebody else is sleeping in. Somebody else has already gotten up. That person that has already gotten up is in the kitchen talking with staff and eating. They're not on their call light. They're having a breakfast that they chose while they read their newspaper, while I'm in another room with somebody else as they practice their morning routine. It could be they have a cup of coffee while they read the paper in their room before they go out to breakfast. And we're talking about the news while I'm making their bed. It didn't feel as hard as the other way because I wasn't rushed going from person to person to person to get them up and dressed, not having a conversation with them, not really knowing them. But instead, I could take my time and enjoy them, and they could enjoy me. So it wasn't harder, it was actually easier. When I talked about, for those of you that were on early at the beginning of the presentation, I talked about doing my clinicals at the nursing home in my hometown in Western Kansas, and how much I hated it because residents were literally lined about in the hallway, pushed into a shower room that was cold, hosed down, and then dressed real quick and rushed out. Sometimes they were brought covered up with a blanket, providing no privacy or sense of dignity. How many residents do you think during that time were screaming or crying and upset? Anyone?
Probably all of them.
All of them. Exactly. Any behavior like screaming or crying or shouting, even shutting down, if they're not acting like they normally would, that's a sign of an unmet need. Every behavior is a sign of an unmet need. So if residents were screaming and crying in the shower, it was most likely because we were not meeting their needs. It didn't feel relaxing. It wasn't warm. It did not feel dignified. It didn't create meaning in their life. Because even something as a shower or bath can create meaning in life if we're doing it based on what our residents' preferences are. Anybody have any questions so far?
Am I on the right slide?
So the next, let me see, I'm going through mine. You should be, keep going a few more. You should be on the one, we should be on the one that says individualized daily routines now. Okay, perfect. So we talked about individualized daily routines. How do we find out what people's individualized daily routines are? Talk about how you do that in the places you work. Either in the chat or you can speak up.
Communicate with them.
Communicate with them. Anybody else?
Ask their family.
Ask their family.
We use an
Interview. Go ahead.
we use an all about me assessment tool at the time of admission, talking with them as well as their families. And then it's placed in a book for all of the staff to be able to see and change if their preferences change.
Okay. Next question. How many of you have preferences that change from day to day? For example, if you have something going on later that day and you typically shower at night, but this is something very special, are you always going to shower at night, or maybe you might shower and get ready right before your big activity? Or sometimes, while I might eat peanut butter and jelly for lunch every day, typically, today I decided I don't want peanut butter and jelly, I want a ham and cheese sandwich. That ever happened to anybody, or anybody ever do that? Change their preferences?
Us in general or residents?
Well, everybody. I mean, because residents are people too, just like
Yeah.
we are. And so if
I
we're,
think this is Amy from the Shepherd Center. I think our staff do a really good job of rolling with the punches, the residents changing their minds, not feeling like doing something, or changing up their menu. Like they may have ordered something for lunch and then 10 minutes before lunch they say, I don't want that. And our dietary staff does a really good job of giving them what they like. And it's like everything changes every single day, and what you liked yesterday, you might not like today. And like I said, I got to give our hats off to our direct care staff and to our dietary and housekeeping for keeping up with the many, many changes of our residents' moods.
that's awesome. So while we do those interviews are great. We need to do those. We also need to realize that things change. So every time someone comes into a meal, just because they have orange juice one day doesn't mean they want orange juice the next day for breakfast. So we need to make sure that we're asking each time. When we're coming in to sit down, we need to say, is this where you would like to sit? Where would you like to sit? Would you like to sit by the window today? Because while we're all creatures of habit, sometimes it might change. And so we need to make sure that we're asking each day, even with the bath and shower, going in and saying, would you like a bath today or a shower today? Not just always relying on a bath schedule, because all of those things are those little things, the pebbles and the water that fit into our daily life that create meaning to life. Because not every day is going to be the same. Bingo. For example, does everybody like bingo? How many of you play bingo currently?
Every Friday or whenever I can fit it in.
So you go play bingo somewhere yourself
No,
or at nursing
residents.
home? Okay. But
Yes.
how many of you go play bingo now just yourselves, like for fun?
No, never.
Yet, what is one of the main things we put on the activity calendar?
Bingo.
Bingo. And typically it's because we can get a big group to play bingo, right? You know how many residents I've talked to though that say I absolutely hate bingo? I hate it. I just go because they will me up to the table. Because while there's some people that go play bingo for fun, probably before they move into long-term care, many don't. Not saying that bingo is wrong or bad, but I want to encourage you guys to think about things in another way. That maybe we need to have more individualized activity calendars. Maybe we need to look at the things that residents like to do and fit in all those things during the day. Are we required to have an activity calendar? Yes. Do we always have to follow it? No. Well, in residents, yes, Amy, some residents really do love it. I'm not saying they don't, but just keep in mind that not everybody does, and we need to make sure we're asking residents because we have a tendency, myself included, when I first started working in long-term care, we just will them up to the table and we don't ask. How many of you currently play noodle ball? Do y'all know what noodle ball is?
I was getting ready to say, what is that?
Noodle ball is where I see this on, and again, not, but I want you to encourage you to think about things. It's where you take a poo noodle and you put residents in a big circle and they hit a ball or balloon back and forth.
Okay, I didn't never know what that was called.
Noodle ball.
I've done it before, but didn't know.
So again, that's something else that is on the activity calendar frequently. Which really what we should be putting on the activity calendar is we should talk to residents when they move in and ask them what they want to do. And then each month get together and, hey guys, let's talk about what we want to do on the activity calendar. Also knowing though that just because it is not on our activity calendar or it is on our activity calendar, that doesn't mean that we have to do it that day or not do it that day. Because spontaneity is just as important.
So my residents, we get together at the beginning of every month and they tell me everything that they want to do. I've gotten to the point where on the calendar it'll say yard games or table games, and it won't be anything specific, and my residents choose that day what yard game are we going to play or what table game are they going to play. I try to encompass physical games, mental games, so I know that the activities that we are doing are well-rounded with them, that they're getting physical needs, they're getting emotional needs, they're getting spiritual needs, they're getting cognitive needs met. And then we also do our one-on-ones with residents as well.
How many of you know a resident that doesn't ever come out of their room or doesn't want to join in the activities?
A lot of them.
A lot of them. I would probably bet you all can name at least a few. Yeah, have we asked why they don't come out for the activities? Or what they would like to do in their room alone? Because for some people, my grandpa was a great example. He was, for as much as my grandma was an extrovert, he was an introvert. He loved spending time in his room reading history books. Does that mean that he didn't have a meaningful life? No. He was doing what had meaning for him. So we need to think about those things as well. Somebody started to say something.
Oh, it was me. I'm Christian from Advita on 10th in Topeka. I have residents that prefer to do their own thing, like they won't come to activities at all. And then I've got some that come to certain activities like bingo, or if we go shopping. When we go shopping, it seems like it's the same people every time we go shopping. I try to change it up, but it still winds up being the same people every time.
And that does happen.
No rush, I'd say, within an hour.
What's that?
Oh, my office mate was on the phone.
Oh. So you're right. Oftentimes it's the same people. And I think sometimes that can be for different reasons. It could be because we aren't getting creative with meeting individuals' needs. And sometimes individuals just go because they're bored. It could be because they really like it. There's lots of reasons, but when that happens, we need to kind of investigate and ask why people aren't going or why they're going, that kind of thing. How many of you currently work in a home where elders get to get up when they want or go to bed when they choose?
Yes.
How many of you, does that scare you to death when I say, let them get up when they choose or go to bed when they choose?
It don't scare me. I mean, there's some people that they were worked overnight their whole life, so they want to sleep during the day and be up at night.
Right. Yep. I one time worked with an elder that she was a night shift nurse. And so that's what she did. She slept during the day and was up at night. Now her family came in and was mad that we were allowing her to do that. However, she was still able to make that decision. So how do you think we handled that?
It's what
Really?
she's used to. It's what her internal clock tells her, hey,
Yep. So we just had a conversation with her family and talked about that. And once we talked about that, they completely understood it. We also talked about the fact that when she was up at night, lots of times she might be helping us fill waters, or she might be taking out, helping tie trash bags in some of the common areas, because those are things that she did in her previous job. And those are things that gave her meaning to her life. How do you think we handled that as far as regulations?
Care plan it,
What's that?
care plan it.
Care plan. Yep. Everything should be a care plan. So if you're care planning those things and someone comes in from and is doing a survey and they come and they ask you, if you're able to pull out that care plan and say, look, this was how they lived their previous life. This is what they've chosen to do, and it's care planned. Are you going to be okay? Yes. But that shows how significant it is to have an individualized care plan, because without those individualized care plans that also should outline the things that residents enjoy doing, the things that bring meaning to their life, if we don't have individualized care plans, we aren't creating meaning for life. How many of you have residents that have come in that have traditions that they do in their home? Pioneer Manor says we do. Talk about some of those traditions. Nobody has any traditions they want to talk about. One of the homes I worked in, we had residents that, we actually do this in my own family now too. On their birthday, they chose what they wanted to eat for their birthday meal. And so we had a resident actually ask if we could start doing that. And we did. And it became a big thing. We had a resident that even, I was gone. It was a weekend and staff called and were absolutely furious with me because he told them it was his birthday and he wanted a lobster. Um, this was a new staff. By the time I got to them, though, they had figured out how to get him lobster. The funny thing is, it wasn't his birthday. But he thought it was hilarious that he pulled that joke over on staff. But they figured out how to get it done. It didn't take me being there with administration to get it done. The staff were able to pull some cash out of the petty cash and get it done. And then they made a big meal for everybody. I know that that scares some of you to think of, oh, we're going to let staff have access to petty cash. We're going to let staff have access to making a meal. If they're Serve Safe certified in a kitchen, they can do that. And if we trust individuals enough to hire them and are trusting them to take care of elders and trusting them with elders' lives, we should be able to trust them with things like petty cash. Because those are the resources, along with individualized care plans and things like that, that are best practices to make sure that we are meeting residents' need in creating a meaningful life. Any other traditions you guys want to talk about? Okay. This was a fishing trip that we took. Somebody said coffee drinkers for, Amy, is that you for traditions?
Yeah, we used to have a group of ladies who would go down every month to the restaurant and do coffee and or weekly to coffee. We've had ladies groups do it, we have men groups do it. Sometimes they would bring the groups up here instead of going down to the restaurant when the residents got to the point where it was really, really hard for them to get out. Their group of friends were nice enough to start bringing the coffee group up here. We do happy hour, and a lot of times the coffee drinkers come up, and instead of drinking coffee, they drink beer and whiskey. So
Love it.
we've done a
Yeah.
lot. Like when you said traditions, here my brain just goes to like holiday stuff and
Right?
family stuff. I wasn't thinking of the little stuff that it's like, oh, we do that and we do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, those little things that fit in there throughout our day. My dad is retired now and he goes and gets coffee every morning at the gas station. That would be a big deal for him if he couldn't do that. While we maybe once they move in, if he moved into long-term care, I don't know that he'd be able to do that every day. But I hope that whoever is working there would get creative enough to find a way to help him have his coffee each morning.
well,
I
then
work
when he gets ready, move him to the Shepherd Center and we'll make it happen.
um, I've worked with elders that every month went to the cell barn. And so that facility every month loaded up a busload of elders and they went to the cell barn. And I have never let those guys came alive. They were marking down when cattle sold. It was amazing. And at first staff were like, that's gonna take so much time. But in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't so bad because we had happy residents, which meant because elders were happy, we had less elders on their call lights. We had less elders that were labeled in quotations as an elopement risk. Because again, any behavior is a sign of an unmet need. So if a resident or an elder is trying to leave, what would it look like instead of us trying to stop them from leaving? We tried to figure out why they wanted to leave. Or we went on a walk with them. I could go on a walk with an elder that was trying to leave, and that could take me 10 minutes versus all day trying to keep them from leaving. Just because I met that one need and created some meaning in their life. Okay, so next slide. Does the need to contribute and to feel purposeful go away as we age? Any thoughts?
No, I
No,
think it actually increases as we age, especially when the family begins to expand.
Mm-hmm. So think about some of those questions we ask when we first meet someone. Often we ask, what do you do for a living? Our jobs and the things we do give us purpose. Not just the jobs that we do outside of the home, but the jobs we do inside the home. I don't know, is Jackie on here? Sump?
No, she's
No,
not
okay.
on today.
For those of you that know Jackie Sump, one of the things that gives her purpose is plants. Every spring, she plans out what she's going to plant. Is that need going to go away if she moves into long-term care?
If it does, there's something seriously wrong.
Right? Because that sheet, her whole spring, like you guys, when I say like she has it down to what she's planning where, what store she has to go to get the certain plants. She drives hours to get these plants. So that need's not going to go away. So how do we meet that need if somebody like her moves into our home? If somebody moves like her moves into our home, we better have them helping us plan what we're planting in our flower pots or our community garden that year. She better be going to the store with us to get them because her purpose didn't go away just because she moved there. And her doing those flower pots is her way of contributing to the home she lives in.
So I have a question. Is there a policy on, like if you do a vegetable garden, is there a policy on being able to eat those foods, or not?
So a lot of that kind of revolves around is very similar to cooking. So do you all have elders that cook in the house?
Not really.
Okay.
Most of them, at least here, we don't really have anybody that wants to cook.
Right. So lots of times what happens is I'll have people ask, well, can an elder can't cook? But can they? Yes, they can. Are the regulations a little bit different? Yes, we have to put gloves on, that kind of thing when we're cooking. The biggest thing is you have to care plan for everything. So if an elder is going to plant cucumbers, you might care plan that they're going to plant cucumbers and that they want to eat the cucumbers themselves, that kind of thing. So just make sure you're care planning for everything. Does that make sense? But then if you're cooking or doing anything with them, you're following serve safe, essentially, especially if in the past, what we did, we had individuals that wanted to make rolls. And so they made just little individual pans of rolls and then they ate those rolls themselves. We marked each pan. Does that make sense? Because we had one lady in particular that did not want to wear gloves. She wanted her hands actually in the dough because that's what she did for a living, was she made bread. And it feels different with gloves on than without gloves. So sometimes you just have to get creative and think outside the box, which can be very hard to do. Other ways that residents or elders can contribute to the life in your home. Any ideas? When I was involved in hiring staff, the one thing I always told them was, if you do it in your own home, chances are you will do it here. Because one, we want it to feel like home. And Sometimes it might mean that that's something that's important that an elder gets to do. And so sometimes it means that we may be helping an elder wrap silverware in a napkin or cook something. Or I did have an elder that liked to take care of the plants. And so she actually one day was sitting on the floor taking care of plants. And I had someone come to me scared to death that she had fallen. She hadn't fallen. She was just down trimming the leaves on the plants, sitting down. But that gave her purpose. Any other ideas of how elders can contribute to their home? Another example would be the elder that had been a night shift nurse. And so she stayed up at night and she helped us fill waters and empty trash in common areas, those kind of things.
We have residents that are in charge of passing out mail. We do also have I mean, we don't have a vegetable garden, but we have a flower garden, and the residents are in charge. They planted the flowers, they take care of the flowers, they do all that, but there's mail delivery. We have a lot of our higher cognitive functioning residents will take a lower functioning resident and kind of take them under their wing, especially during activities, and help them out, like find their numbers for bingo or help them with the other activities that we do. Yeah.
Do you all have questions on your get to know me forms, whatever you may call them? Do you all have questions on there that ask, what would you like to contribute to our home, to contribute to our home, if anything? Some elders may not want to do anything. Some may just be like, well, I'm retired, dude. I want to sit back. But there are some that will want to help. Do you guys have a question on there that centers around whether or not they want to help? And if so, what they would like to do to help? Amy says yes. Good. So, best practices, again, we talked about this earlier. Care plan, care plan, care plan, care plan. I can't stress that enough. Care plan for everything. Have your staff trained in how to get petty cash out, to get receipts. Have your staff trained in serve safe, all those things so that they can help as much as they possibly can. When we talk about elders contributing to the life of their home, how many of you know elders that know how to crochet or paint? Is that something they could teach a class on or might want to teach a class on? Possibly. Things like that. So just think outside the box, outside of just the normal activity calendar to create life. I know you guys don't have a whole lot of time. So, okay, we're going to move forward and talk about spirituality. How do you meet spirituality in your homes? Give me some examples. Either put them in the chat or say them out loud. I saw someone earlier talk about communion. Someone comes in and does communion.
We have a lady that comes in on Fridays, every Friday, to do communion. I have a resident that leads Bible study on Sundays, and 2 Saturdays a month I have another gentleman that comes in and does Bible study.
Okay. Do any of you have elders that go to church regularly on Sundays that you help get to church? I know that can be hard, but I'll encourage you again to think outside the box and see, because for some elders, while they love having people come in, it's important to them to get out and go to church. Is spirituality just going to church, though? Not necessarily. So spirituality generally includes a sense of connection to something bigger to ourselves. For some people, it could be just going sitting outside and meditating. For others, it may be singing worship songs. The important thing is that we need to ask on those questions, on those interviews, what spirituality means to them and what we can do to meet their spirituality needs. Because spirituality and religion, they overlap, but they are not necessarily always the same. Spirituality asks, where do I find meaning, connection, and value? Whereas religion questions what is true and what is right for many of us. It could be private prayer, it could be devotions, meditation, it could be being out in nature. Community connections. How do you guys meet needs for community connections? So what is community? Call it a clan, call it a network, call it a tribe, call it a family, whatever you call it, whoever you are, you need one. So tell me ways that you guys meet community connections, those needs.
So we,
So-
our facility is in Newton, Kansas, and we're kind of a unique facility. So we have an AL building, we have a long-term care building, and we have 6 greenhouses. And each one of our greenhouses have about 10 residents in each of them. So we're all not one big connected building, so we're very spread out.
Mhm.
So we meet community connections by having large events several times a month where we can bring all of those residents across campus, including our independent living houses, because we have 61 of those. So we can all come together and we do events where they can talk, get to meet new people, reconnect with people that they used to spend time with out in the community, and it gives them a chance to just have a good time there.
Great. Any others? Have any ideas? So how do we create community connections beyond the activity calendar? We use the social history and interviews. We ask them about their previous connections. We form new groups if we need to. How do we keep previous community connections alive and thriving? So if somebody played bunco previously with a group of ladies, how do you keep that alive and thriving? Thoughts? Could you invite their bunco group in to the home to play with them? Sometimes it might be seeing if a family member wants to take them out to bunco if we can't, or that we're taking them out to bunco. Same thing goes for those coffee groups, the sale barn group. Those connections are all connections that we want to try to help residents and elders continue once they move to their new home. So hopefully this is helping change your perspective some. So home is where love resides, memories are created, friends always belong, and laughter never ends. It's not a place, it's a feeling. Whose responsibility is it to create a home?
The staff.
Yep, everyone's. So I don't know if you guys can see in the picture, one of this picture, this is just a guy from administration. Somebody wanted to go out and play golf, so he took him out to play golf. This other picture, she is holding a puppy. So one of the homes, there's somebody that works there that raises puppies, and so they brought the puppies in that day. The other thing we have to realize that when we're talking about creating a home and whose responsibility it is, we need to think about resident directed versus staff directed. So we are not creating home if we're the ones deciding when they get up, when they take their medications, what they eat for breakfast, when they take a bath. If it is staff directed rather than resident directed, chances are we are not creating a home or meaningful life. So things like medications, you can have doctors write orders upon wakening, upon eating, things like that to get past the 7 a.m., 6 a.m., that kind of thing. We can have elders tell us how they want their room decorated. We can make sure their schedules are individualized. So we ask every day, do you want to take a bath? No? Okay. I'll ask again tomorrow, type of thing. Signs elders feel at home. Elders and staff celebrate each other. How many of you have had a staff member that was pregnant and maybe residents asked to have a baby shower for her? That's a sign that elders feel at home because they've created that connection. We want to see elders feel comfortable contributing to the life of the home. So it may mean they help cook a meal, or they may help plan a meal. They may plant the flowers or deliver the mail. Elders bicker with one another. I always like to talk about while we don't have assigned seats, in my family anyway, we don't have assigned seats, but we are creatures of habit. So we always sit in the same spot. Always. I see that a lot in long-term care homes. It may not be because the assigned seat is assigned. It may be because we're just creatures of habit. So everybody tends to sit where they want or at the same place every time. However, what happens when somebody else moves in and they sit in somebody else's spot that they always sit?
Oh, good
Oftentimes
Lord. Oh,
you'll
good.
see them bicker.
We even came to work one day and one of the residents had taken a silver magic marker and wrote residents' names on the cushions of the chair. Like, so,
Yeah. So why
so
it can
that
be, I mean, we
they
are creatures
knew.
of habit. Yes, we are creatures of habit. We don't assign seats. We all typically still sit in the same spot though. We still need to make sure we're asking. However, that is, while it can be, oh, they're bickering again over who, he's mad because Dwight is new and Dwight sat in Ethel's space. The fact that they are bickering with each other back and forth shows that they feel comfortable and feel at home. So while it can be frustrating, it's also a good sign. You just have to be careful on how you handle it. I've had lots of conversations with elders about how we don't assign seats, and it's kind of, if you get there first, you get the seat. So elders share their feelings with staff. Oftentimes I talk to staff and they're like, oh, they would tell me anything. And then I'll go in and do an interview with an elder and they're like, not comfortable telling them. Because we as staff have a tendency to sometimes ask questions that lead to the answer, like, you want to come play bingo, don't you? Well, if I'm an elder and somebody asks me like that, do I feel like I can tell them I don't want to play bingo? Typically not. Do I hope they feel like they can tell me they don't want to play bingo? Yes. So if elders are sharing their feelings with you, that shows that they feel comfortable, have a meaningful life, and feel at home. Elders ask staff to join them in activities such as sitting at meals, etc. Again, I know that sometimes if we're task-oriented, this can be frustrating because we feel like somebody's not working if they're sitting down and eating with an elder. Yet if they're spending time with an elder, they really are doing their job the best they can. And finally, family and friends are comfortable visiting and make themselves at home. This shows that they feel at home and that it's a meaningful life. So in conclusion, we need to use best practices to ensure life is resident directed and all staff support those living in the home to create a meaningful life. This may include care planning, orders for medications, training staff to use petty cash and to work in the kitchen, and many other tasks. Does anybody have any questions? All right, if not, I'll leave it to you, JC.
Well, thank you for presenting. I'm sorry we went over a little bit longer, but
Yeah,
we
sorry,
appreciate
guys.
everyone who stayed on. Madison and I will be on to answer any peak related questions. And I believe Krystal will stay on if anyone has any questions pertaining to her presentation today. If you have not, please put in the chat your name and what home you're with, so that way we can keep track of who all is here. But have a good rest of your day. Have a good 4th of July next week. But thank you for coming.